Jonathan, good morning.
It's broken.
Morning has broken. It is Wednesday, September 2nd, and I am your consecrated host, Father Jeff.
I'm your other consecrated host, Jonathan. I almost said Father Jonathan. I am a father, but not that kind of father.
Baptism, confirmation, a little bit of holy orders over here. That changes things a bit.
And you got baptism and confirmation as well.
Oh, I feel holy today.
Lots of grace flowing.
Yeah, I went to confession the other day, so I feel very holy.
Well, good.
You know, we go to confession too. Priest
I wonder
better.
if people ever think about that.
You don't think about the priest going to confession, but yeah, called up another priest and said, "Hey, you around? Can I go to confession?" Sure, come on over. So that's what I did.
I got some sins I need to dispose of.
Gotta get rid of these, and you're the first person I thought of. Yeah.
I should feel honored.
Yeah. You know what? Yesterday, as we were talking and going through everything, I forgot one minor little thing that I did not bring up according to the calendar. Just like today, there is no saint scheduled for Wednesday. But yesterday on Tuesday, while there also was not a saint scheduled for the general Roman calendar, the Holy Father had asked us to keep it as a particular day of prayer for the care of creation. And we've been, for the last 5 years, the 1st of September has been designated as that. And I forgot to mention that yesterday. So if you didn't pray for the care of creation, maybe just bump it to today, and that will be good.
Prayers aren't limited by time, so I think
Prayers
we're good.
are not limited by time, so you can do that. And there's so much that, this is one of those things that we can always pray about and for. And once again, it seems like every issue gets hijacked by politics. That as soon as you start talking about caring for creation or being responsible with the environment or whatever, that people are going to get all of their, pants in a twist and like, oh my gosh. No, but basically we are saying as church is that God created the universe and then he put it in our hands and said, take care of it. And so we are called to be good stewards of the earth, of creation, of resources, of our talents, our gifts, all of these things. And what the church is asking us to do is to pray that people act like God when they approach the world and other people. That we really, take care of what's been given us and don't be fools with it.
Excellent.
Don't be a fool, Jonathan.
It's hard. It is hard.
It is.
Well, it's also it was a full moon tonight. Was it yesterday?
I think it was last night or between the nights, or we're on the other side of the full moon now. Thank goodness, because again, during full moon time, everything happens.
Everything is just. Well, we were talking. It's hard enough to run the church and everything else while things are normal.
Yeah.
But then now when we have restrictions and regulations and everything else, and then you add the full moon on top of it, it's just chaos.
Balancing everything. Yeah, and that's kind of the work of creation.
Yeah.
That the work of creation is God takes chaos and he orders it and he makes something beautiful out of it. We are called to take the chaos of our lives and the world and order them and make something beautiful out of them.
And we're trying to get back to normal and be ordered. But
a little bit.
But then you have this whole COVID-19 thing.
There's a lot of things going on.
Oh, hey, you can't do it that way like you used to because COVID. So
I know. It doesn't help.
But we are getting back into the groove of things, which is really, it's good. It's challenging, but it's good.
It is. And because of that, we decided to do something a little different in the production of our show these days. So way back when everyone was locked down and nobody was going anywhere and things were basically stopped and shut down, we decided to live stream a little morning program from the parish office. And now we're just finding that it's harder to do the live stream, I think for a couple different reasons. Mm-hmm. Number one, a lot of our folks who used to watch during quarantine are now maybe taking kids to school, going to work, going to mass, doing other things.
Living their lives.
And even if you're at home, maybe the one time works better than another time or whatnot. So we're finding that it's kind of difficult to pick out that magic time that works for everyone for a live stream. A lot of people I know have commented that they watch the morning program not now at 8 o'clock or whenever you're watching, but they don't watch it at 8 o'clock when we would live stream it. They watch it maybe in the evening or the afternoon or before bed or whatever. So this really coday it's the daily program.
The daily.
And we're coming to you not live streamed anymore. So, Jonathan, we're recording this.
We're recording it, and we're still premiering it on Facebook. So for those of you that like watching it together, and there has been a beautiful community that's been made.
Absolutely.
You can still comment together and everything else.
Exactly. So it should change your experience in no way. Like, here it comes.
Right.
It's on at a certain time. You see people checking in and offering their comments and what have you.
The biggest difference, and we haven't been getting a lot of comments to respond to,
because a lot of people aren't
is we will not be able to respond to any questions or comments the day of.
Yeah. So if you're writing something right now, I don't see it because I taped this yesterday or earlier today or some other time. So you don't know when this is happening. It is morning. It's always morning here on the morning show. Yes. I will guarantee that. So that, and then that way, Vimeo, it'll appear
8 a.m. I will make it turn on so it's available.
It'll be turn onable,
and so that you can do it on Vimeo or the website if you've been watching from the website.
And we may even make it available earlier. I don't know if that's a possibility, where if you want to watch it when you're eating breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning, it may be available. I don't know. We have to still figure out.
What I will do is right now, a poll will pop up, and you can't actually click on the poll, but you'll be able to see. It's going to have a question for you saying, do you care when Morning is Broken goes on? And if you'd want to watch it as a community, whatever, it's going to have options that will be listed here somewhere. And you'll see it right now because I can edit it, which is one of the nice things that we will be able to do.
Sure. Yeah, so we'll work things out. So don't you worry about it. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time. Continue watching as you have been watching. And if you haven't been watching live, then there's not going to be a single difference at all. If you have been watching live, we're still going to present it live so you can watch with the community and share that experience. We're just not able to see those comments and respond right back at you.
But we won't have any broadcast interruptions or anything else. It'll all be a lot more.
We won't have to deal with all of the Wi-Fi internet issues, and especially as kids are maybe zooming in for different things in school.
For sure.
Blah, 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 blah. Let's dive in.
Screwtape Letters.
Screwtape Letters. That's what we're doing. We're doing the Screwtape Letters. And we are on letter 5 now. Chapter 5, letter 5, whatever you want to call it. This is a good one, Jonathan.
It is. And it kind of takes you away from the patient.
It's very artsy.
Do we know the patient's name yet?
No.
Do we ever find out?
I can't tell you that.
Good. I don't like spoilers.
Yeah, so right now it is the patient, but it appears that Wormwood is tickled. I'll say he's tickled to death that there's war and violence going on. Remember, this was written during World War II.
Yep.
So it's written kind of about the contemporary situation. And so he writes to Screwtape apparently, and he's just delighted. He's probably just like, oh, isn't it amazing? All of this war, all of this suffering, death
people
and destruction.
Killing each other.
Oh, it's what hell is made of. The dream.
It's Christmas in hell.
It's Christmas in hell. It is delightful. So he must be just delirious with delight on seeing all of the misery, the suffering, the evil, the wickedness, the despair, all of those things that are of hell.
Seems like it would be a
you would think that.
Party down there.
And Screwtape says, hold on.
Not so fast.
You are drunk on all of this stuff. It's like, this is what intoxicates a demon or a spirit.
Yes.
That, like, you are just intoxicated with the misery and the suffering and all of that kind of stuff. But, you've got a duty before your pleasure. You've got work to do. Don't dive into all of this pleasure. As a demon, you're not supposed to enjoy anything anyway.
Right.
I mean, he's kind of slapping him on the wrist. So he starts talking about how all of this stuff that, you love this, isn't it wonderful? It gives you these thrills. But what good is it? What good is all of this war, all of this despair, all of this battle, all of this evil if you lose the soul? If you lose your patient soul.
Right.
If your patient ends up going to heaven, then all of that noise was just noise.
Nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of like the opposite of the gospel that we heard this past Sunday, where Jesus says, what good is it to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul? In some sense, Screwtape is echoing that on a much more sinister side. What good is it to destroy the whole world if you don't gain that person's soul? That for both God and the evil one, it really is about the soul, losing the soul. You don't want to lose him. And what do you mean by lose?
Gain, lose.
I know, it's kind of, so.
It is a little bit,
you gotta
massage
think
your brain
about
a little
this.
bit.
Just, start working that out. So the devil feeds on human misery for sure. But you got work to do. So don't get caught up in all of ooh, doesn't this taste good? Ooh, isn't this misery delightful? You've got some work to do. So, yeah. So if we jump down here to that paragraph that begins, of course, war is entertaining. The immediate fear and sufferings of the humans, blah, 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 blah. It is refreshing. We love it. We love human suffering. This is what the evil one is saying. But he makes this point. When I see the temporal sufferings of humans who finally escape us, I feel as if I had been allowed to taste the first course of a rich banquet and then denied the rest. So again, don't just eat the appetizer. Right. Make sure you hold on to the entree.
So he loves seeing the suffering. Mm-hmm. And as humans, we're all going to suffer in some way.
We are.
But he says it's so bad. He says it's better not even tasted it at all.
Yes.
If he loses that soul to heaven.
You want to get that soul. And so how are we going to do that? Here's the problem. That he continues to say, look, you love all of this suffering, but the thing about misery and suffering and the world around you is that it causes the human beings to think about God.
Yes.
And that almost seems backwards, that suffering would cause us to think about God.
But it's so true in the world. We just had the natural disaster that Hurricane Laura went through southeast Louisiana.
Right.
And tore it up, and you see people helping each other, and you see people really searching. Anytime, you get the diagnosis of cancer, and you automatically think, oh my gosh, I need to start praying for that person or praying for myself. A sudden death, anything, when the hardships happen, people turn to God.
People turn to God and hopefully turn to one another and reach out to one another. He says that we would hope for a good deal of cruelty and unchastity and all of these other things that are bad, but if we're not careful, thousands will turn in tribulation to the enemy.
Sure.
So, those of you who remember the fall of the Twin Towers on 9/11, the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Challenger space shuttle, pick a generation, and what was that moment that kind of defined national tragedy for you? The nation came together. People flooded the churches. There was a desire to call out to God in prayer. So that's the thing. In war, people are going to turn to God. Yeah. And so this is the danger that the evil one says. It's like, yeah, we're the author of all that is bad, but darn that God, he takes this bad stuff and he brings good out of it.
Right. That those bad things actually divert their attention from the bad and everything else, and it turns into something higher.
Yeah.
Which is all those distractions that they want you to focus on, the fact that those distractions are actually causing them to not be distracted anymore.
Exactly. And so we have to be very careful. The evil one is speaking about this, that just because bad things happen doesn't mean that bad consequences are going to come from them.
Right.
That the one thing that we see, let me pull out a line here first of all, kind of in the middle of this page here. It says, the enemy disapproves of many of these causes. So causes for which people will kind of raise the banner for. It's like, so human beings will take up a cause. And like, we're going to fight for this, or we're going to stand for that. Right. And the evil one says, God doesn't approve of most of the things people end up fighting for, because we don't see things clearly. So you fight for this, you fight for that, you fight for all of these things. It's probably not the most perfect thing anyway. So God disapproves of many of these causes, but he basically takes these things and he can bring something good out of it. Right. And this is the mystery of the cross, that Jesus entered into a cruel form of execution, punishment, death, whatever, and he transformed that into life.
Right.
Eternal life even. So God is very good at taking what is bad and bringing good out of it.
Behold, I make all things new.
And the evil one can't do anything about it. And that's what kind of makes him angry.
That would make me pretty angry.
So he's like, we want things to be bad, but not too bad. We delight in it. If we can make it as horrible and as awful as we can, we would delight in that. But let's meter ourselves and make things bad, but not too bad.
Right. So not at the forefront.
Right.
Maybe kind of it be like the second or third thing.
Yeah. Or you can tolerate it and not rush off to God for help.
Yeah. Just a major annoyance.
Turn the screws, but not too tightly. Yeah. So he talks about here how, here's the thing. So Screwtape then says, well, let's not focus on the war. Because men are killed in places where they knew they might be killed. Mm-hmm. And to which they go, and they would be prepared if they are God's kids. So if you belong to God, and you know you're going to go off to war, you know you're going to go off to something dangerous, you're going to prepare yourself. You're probably going to go to confession.
If I was about to head onto the battlefield, I would be going to confession.
Yeah, you would make restitution, and you would try to bring people who know they are going to die. Start getting all of their affairs in order.
Yes.
And they want everything to be taken care of. If you know you're in danger, you're going to make sure that you're prepared for that. If I'm traveling, if I get on a plane, if I'm going on a car trip or whatever, I always want to go in a state of grace, because I want to make sure that should something outside of my control happen, I want to be ready.
Yeah. We
should do that all the time. But you do it particularly when you're in a life and death situation.
It's true.
It is true. So what the evil one says here is like, so don't use war and death and destruction, that kind of stuff. Let's do something different. Let's take this. How much better would it be if all humans died in costly nursing homes, amid doctors who lie, nurses who lie, friends who lie, and if we have trained them, promising life to the dying, encouraging the belief that sickness excuses every indulgence. It's all going to be okay. I know this person is dying. I'm watching them die, but I'm going to tell them it's all going to be okay. And there's the sticky wicket, as it were.
Sickness excuses every indulgence, so it's okay that you do this because you're in this state.
It's okay that you're crabby and lash out at people because you're not feeling well. It's okay. It's okay to be bad. It's okay to be lazy.
I'd be lazy and crabby too if I was in your state,
Yeah, you can understand it, and that's the thing. I understand. But that doesn't excuse it. But if people surround you and they give you an excuse. I mean, you could almost apply this to the current pandemic as well, that this sickness excuses every indulgence. That well, there's this pandemic going on, so it's okay that I stay home and do nothing.
Right.
It's okay that I indulge in more food or more drink because I just need it to take the edge off. Or that I waste my time on the internet or watching television. Or that I don't go to confession because, well, they say we don't have to. Or I don't go to church because, well, they say we don't have to. That I can really make excuses.
Right.
Some excuses there may be just cause for.
Right. So if you're at home and you're immunocompromised or something like that, it's okay for you to stay home.
Right. Absolutely.
But this is more of the people that maybe haven't come back to Mass, but
they're going everywhere else.
They're going everywhere else.
Yeah. I'm going to the store. I'm going to my kids' football game. I'm driving my kids to school. I'm hanging out with parents. I'm going out to a restaurant, but oh my gosh, couldn't go to church and well, that would be just too dangerous. It excuses every indulgence. I'll indulge in everything else, but I won't do what I need to do. So the evil one wants to make everything be okay. Yeah. It's just all going to be okay. That's called false hope. You know? That's called false hope because when you see that you are dying, it's okay to tell someone that they are dying and to help them prepare for that. Would you like us to call a priest? Don't let them call a priest because then they'll know that something's wrong. Yeah. Would you like to confess your sins? Would you like to be anointed? Would you like to prepare for death? If you could get someone to prepare for death.
Well, a few months ago, this was actually, you were gone, and there was a visiting priest. I didn't go to this Mass, but they talked about it afterwards. So there's a person on death row who had a conversion and became a saint.
Oh, sure. I could believe that.
And if it wasn't for, the conversation I had amongst my friends was, if it wasn't for being on death row, knowing he was going to die,
right,
would he have ever converted?
Right.
And that was a great question.
There's been a number of deathbed conversions. In fact, I think there's even a book. Someone gave me a book one time of deathbed conversions. Like famous people who became Catholic on their deathbed or who wanted to talk to a priest on their deathbed that you may not even know, you may not even think of. Like, I'm just going to pull some name out of the air. I don't know if it's true or not, so don't quote me on this one. But it's like someone like, let's just say, Jesse James. Mm-hmm. Like on his deathbed, he had a conversion and was baptized and whatever. You think of him as, kind of that criminal, that outlaw, whatever. And
so the outlaw Jesse James.
Yeah, exactly. Constantine was in this boat, deathbed conversion. He wasn't really the best Christian until his deathbed. So there are, I don't remember if Jesse James was one of those stories in there. I was just using it as an example.
Well, I thought you might be talking about the Reverend Jesse James.
No.
He's still alive. So.
There's something totally different there. Isn't that Jesse Jackson?
It might be Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, we don't know Jesse's. We don't know.
But the thing is, it has happened.
The point is that when you know you're going to die, as he says here, in wartime, not even a human can believe he's going to live forever. Mm-hmm. And once you see mortality, then you live differently.
Yeah.
You'll see a number of saints. In a lot of in the artwork, they have, you might see a skull sitting on their desk. Or one of the popes commissioned, I think it was Pope Adrian commissioned Raphael to make a sarcophagus for him that he could keep it in his office to remind him that even though I am Pope, the Vicar of Christ, I am going to die, and that is going to be my home. And we call that the Memento Mori,
yes,
the remembrance of death. Remember, you are going to die. And that changes the way you live.
It does. And if we lived every day as if it were our last,
Yeah.
That it could be our last. Maybe not as if it were our last, because if it were our last, we'd probably not go to work, go to mass.
Right, exactly.
But to know that it's like, oh, am I in a state of grace? Well, I should probably.
Am I prepared?
Am I prepared?
Am I prepared?
And you would live differently, because if you thought that, you would think twice about making those lapses in judgment.
Yeah.
You know, that person that cuts you off. Do I have better things to think about than getting mad at that person?
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it really is a beautiful thing. There's a devotional that I bought a few years ago. I think it's an Advent. It might be a Lenten devotional.
Okay.
About Memento Mori. It was written by a sister. I don't remember her order. But it's just really good. Just daily reflections on you are going to die.
Going to die.
And because you are going to die, you should live a certain way. Take all of that away. Because we are Catholic, we should live a certain way.
Right.
And it's so if we lived the way we should, we wouldn't have to worry about any of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And death is a great remembrance.
It helps us remember, because we do sometimes lose the eternal focus. Mm-hmm. We only see what's right in front of me. So this is where the difference between fear and prudence comes in. And again, we can liken it to the pandemic that we're experiencing. There is a fine line between being prudent and living in fear. Yes. We are not called to live in fear. We should never live in fear. But we should live prudently. And so I know that I'm going to die. I should not be afraid of dying. If I am not doing things because I am afraid of dying, there's something wrong. I need counseling. I need some spiritual direction. I need something, because I should not fear death. Right. Period. But I'm concerned about being a good steward of the health and the life that God has given me. Therefore, I should live prudently. That is what motivates the actions or the non-actions that I take, not only during the pandemic, but always. That am I living prudently? And am I taking care of my life and not being afraid of every little thing? Right. That is not a way. That is shackle. That's not liberation. Oh. That is being shackled by fear.
A slave. Truly being
a slave. Yeah. Where I'm not able to live freely because I am living in fear.
Yeah, well, the line that we were right there, it says, one of our best weapons, contented worldliness, is rendered useless if people remember their death.
Absolutely.
And contented the worldliness, that is what our culture and society tells you.
Society today wants us to not think of death.
Right.
And, it is in here, how much better if all humans died in costly nursing homes, in hospitals, in institutions, removed from everyday life. That we never have to think about death and dying, because it's not really a part of real life. It happens over there in those other places. And people will say, I don't like funerals, I don't like funeral homes, I don't like hospitals for that very reason, because they don't like death. Well, who likes death, first of all?
Right. That's not what I'm saying. It's not something to be pursued or anything like that.
Right, exactly. But it's not something to be feared in that same way. And so, I know I've shared this before. In my ethics class in college, I had an old priest who was the professor, and he was going off on his tangent about death and dying. And he said, as a church, we have failed to teach people how to mourn and how to grieve. And we've given in to this worldly whatever where we just ignore it all. So people don't die in their homes anymore. They do die in nursing homes and hospitals. We don't wake people in their homes anymore. We wake them in the funeral home. We don't want to grieve anymore because it's a sign of weakness. So hold back the tears, hold this. Don't have a funeral. Have a celebration of life instead, because we should do a party instead of actually acknowledge that I'm grieving and that something horrible has happened here. Right. We expect our funeral directors to make up this person's body for the viewing so that they look better in death than they did in life. And he said, there's something messed up about this. This person is dead. There's no soul there. They should look dead. They should look like they're without a soul.
And as good as the funeral person is, you can tell there's no life.
Yeah, don't try to ignore the reality of death, because then we just live with blinders on. That death is there. Don't be afraid.
And if you don't grieve, then that means you didn't love or you didn't care, because it's a loss. I mean, you've talked about how death is actually pretty vicious.
It's horrible.
Ripping the soul apart from the body.
It's terrible.
Unnatural. That's not how we're supposed to be.
God didn't want it.
And so all of those things are natural. In a lot of ways, I mean, healthy to mourn and to grieve. The more you put it off, the more it's going to affect you. And I lost my mom at a young age.
Sure.
And there was a lot of mourning and grieving, and there's also redemption, through God. And that's when we turn to God. It's an opportunity to really join our suffering. And it is suffering.
It is suffering. Grief is suffering. And because people don't want to suffer, they don't want to grieve.
Yeah, it's not comfortable, but am I better now, having gone through it? Most definitely.
Most people's issues, I would say, deal with the repression of the negative feelings. They don't want to grieve, they don't want to suffer, so we repress them, we just move on, pretend everything is okay and happy, and it's not, and then you're all messed up internally, and then you have to deal with that later on. It comes out in wrong ways. This is why Jesus says, take up that cross. It's okay to embrace the cross. It's okay to suffer. Go through it. There's a resurrection on the other side. Don't forget that. There is a resurrection on the other side. So this, we end, we could probably bring this to our ending here, that, all of this stuff, all of this, he says here that basically suffering is an essential part of what he calls redemption. Mm-hmm. The enemy's human partisans have all been plainly told, the angels and the saints have been told by God, that suffering is an essential part of redemption. And so that faith, a faith which is destroyed by war and pestilence and suffering, wasn't really faith at all. If suffering, war, disease, if that destroys your faith, then it really causes us to step back and say, did I even have faith at all? God doesn't desire suffering. He doesn't desire pain. He doesn't desire pandemic. He doesn't desire any of those things. But he permits them so that he can bring a greater good out of them.
Right. You couldn't have the resurrection without the crucifixion.
The great Easter song that we sing at the Easter Vigil, O happy fault, O necessary sin of Adam that brought for us a Savior. God didn't want Adam and Eve to fall, but they did, and God brought something better out of it. So no matter what suffering you are enduring, know that God's promise always has been and always will be to bring something better out of every hurt, every trial, every suffering.
And it might not be in this life.
That's true.
So just know, because there's a quote somewhere that says, eventually everything will be better, and if it's not better, it's not over yet, or something.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and that's not true. Sometimes better just means you have to wait till heaven.
But the quote is true in the sense that
eternal life.
Yeah, I got to remember how exactly that went. That I don't remember. Maybe we'll bring it back to it tomorrow. My title: The Value of War and Death. That these things are horrible, but they have value because they can bring real conversion out and they can bring us towards God. So the value of war and death. What'd you put?
My title was Memento Mori.
We talked about that.
Talked about it.
Wow.
It's like we planned it or something.
We didn't. It's just, but we are on the same page.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good rest of your day or night whenever you are watching our program.
Right.
And
we'll be back tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Excellent.